What is up, Jabroni JJ back here from Run Pure Bets, talking a little MLB, Saturday, July the 2nd. So for yesterday, a poultry 1-2 day. I felt like, so obviously the Angels look was a bad look, and they just continue to be a team I can't get right. They're like the Red Sox, what the Red Sox were to me earlier in the year. I've stopped betting the Angels for a bit, but felt like yesterday was a good spot, and knowing the way when I've stopped betting them, they tend to win for whatever reason. So they probably win by 30 runs today against the Astros. But it was nice to get it was nice to get the Padres first 5 in against the Dodgers. I mean, look, I've bet against the Dodgers like 3 or 4 times this year, or bet on Dodgers games 3 or 4 times this year, and those have all been winners. So you got to kind of take the good with the bad. As for the Oakland over, I mean, I say this all the time. When you bet overs or unders, you're more or less trying to project foot traffic, not so much runs. I mean, granted, of course, you can try to project theoretical runs, but you're more or less trying to project how much action you're going to get out of the base paths, and are you going to get some carry on the ball in warm weather? Blah 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 blah. I could be wrong. I think collectively in that game, the teams combined, like, what was it, 3 for 20 or 3 for 21 with runners in scoring position. And as a team, they collectively left over 20 guys on base at the end of innings. That's a game that should have went over. Granted, I don't usually talk on that in that sense on many games, but really felt like that Oakland game was a really good call. I was actually quite surprised that didn't get there. But again, that's the difference between winning days and losing days, right, guys? I think that overall, that's why you got to take the good with the bad, and that's why it's a grind. And look, today I have 3 more that I like, and we'll see if we can make a little traction there. Get a little bit of it back before we do another live show tomorrow with Joey and Holden. So without further ado, I guess we'll jump in. Chuck, what's happening, my man? Nathan, Chachu, Brandon, love you guys. So I'll talk on the Mariners game, as we get there, because I have a few different takes for that one, actually, Chuck. All right, so obviously there's a few games that have already started, right? The Jays and the Rays, the Yankees, Guardians. That'll be a doubleheader. That game, I think, already went over the total in the 6th inning. I got a delay in Twins Orioles. But anyway, so we'll just start with the 4 o'clocks. I am happy. I mean, granted, again, I feel like MLB still can't get these things right. Like 2 12 o'clock games, they could have just had these all these games at 1 o'clock, in my opinion, and then have your 4 o'clock games. This like scattered where we'll throw one game early and then a bunch of 4 o'clocks. Scheduling for MLB just hasn't made a lot of sense to me. I do like that they did pack the afternoon though, and the early evening. So they're not competing with I guess UFC tonight in many instances. But either way, like I said, scheduling's kind of been a nightmare in my opinion for baseball on Saturdays. Sundays is always kind of the same thing, so Sundays is fine, but Saturday's been just a nightmare. All right, so let's start. Giants, White Sox, Logan Webb, Dylan Cease, San Fran -145, total 7. I felt like I had that. I didn't bet the game yesterday, but I felt like I had a really good read on it. I kind of said both pitchers have a tremendous amount of upside, and if you get that flavor of upside, it'll likely play low scoring. And Lance Lynn kind of pitched good, I guess, right? It was low scoring there, and then Alex Cobb threw pretty well himself. And the weather wasn't exactly helping, and it's not going to help today either. Obviously, give me honestly. I know that the Cease's had a great year, but I mean, give me Webb over him in any spot. But that's why the line is what it is, right? I mean, San Fran's a favorite because you're getting the better version of him. And look, don't look now. I mean, the White Sox are playing okay baseball. I think that a lot of people would have expected more out of this team at this point in the year, but they've now won 3 of 5. And granted, this came after a little bit of a streak, a little bit of an L streak for them. But maybe the tides are starting to turn. This team's been dealing with injuries, but I mean, a lot of teams have been, right? This team's pen's been decimated. But needless to say, they're getting their bats back, and this lineup looks legit again. But again, I have a lot of respect for Logan Webb, and Dylan Cease has been great. I do think this line's fair though, and a total of 7 makes sense. I will say that I think yesterday the total was 7.5. I mean, you're getting 2 better arms today, and the line only drops a half run. Call it some slight value on the under. I don't love the spot though. I don't like betting a lot of under 7s. With 2 good pitchers. Obviously I have respect for Logan Webb and Dylan Cease, but I don't consider them like elite. So it makes it a little tough there. But again, I think this line's actually relatively fair on both sides. All Let me just real quick. Nathan, I'm on the Red Sox. Hey, look, good luck. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I made a bet on a Red Sox game, to be honest. I think I did it with a Cardinals solo pick, actually, now that I think about it, and over. But I mean, in terms of betting or fading the Red Sox, I can't remember the last time. It's had to have been at least 2 months. Leroy, what's up, my man? Maybe we should all be betting Yankees run line. I mean, Yankees are just sensational, and if you're sitting there just kind of projecting them to lose. Now, like I said, I felt like I jumped on a good spot last week where we won. But yeah, you're not going to see me fading the Yankees too often. That's for sure. That team's unbelievable. Joey Chestnut today. Is that today? That can't be today. That's always on July 4th. But no, I don't cap. Chestnut's hot dog esque. It's funny. Like I think it's fun, right? The hot dog eating contest. I think it's a fun thing to bet on and gamble on. I love people come out with what they think are sharp takes. It's like, give me a fucking break. Like, what are you studying? You studying Chestnut the last 12 months? Like, you studying him the last 3 months? It doesn't even make any sense. But like I said, you want to have fun with it when the day comes. I think I'll be doing a live baseball show, so we could talk about it then. But again, it's fun to bet, but don't take yourself too seriously with that stuff. JJ went on my own yesterday. What's up, Trav? Went on my own yesterday with Corey Kluber. Prick. I didn't even see. I guess the Tampa lost yesterday. I don't even know. But yeah, Kluber. I'll be honest. I have respect for Kluber. I think he was starting to fizzle a few years back, but he kind of regained his form, and obviously he's going to have good starts and bad starts. But all around, I definitely have respect for Kluber and what he's been doing, especially how long he's been in the league. Nationals Marlins. So I wanted to bet this game. I didn't have the balls to. I couldn't actually. So the long short here is I don't think the Marlins should be favored on the road in a average pitching matchup. However, Tetrialt, however you want to pronounce it, or maybe you're French, we'll just refer to him as Jackson. He's not very good, and that makes it tough. But Castano's not very good either. So I know that Castano's ERA is under 3, but he's not good. I mean, the advanced stuff, he's got regression en route. Tetrialt, or like we say, Jackson, he wasn't very good in AAA. So I know he's had a few spot starts here and kind of a glorified bullpen dude, but his whip's super high. He's giving up a lot of foot traffic. This is a very warm game today in Washington with 2 very susceptible arms. This is the type of game that you would think would generate a lot of runs. But again, you do have 2 poultry offenses. So it's not exactly fun betting over 9.5 at these spots. But I will say in warm weather, this number is more than fine for these two for this ballpark. So if you think there'll be runs, I'm not against betting the over in this spot. Like I said, I wanted to back the Nationals here primarily because I don't think Castano should be a road favorite or a road pick'em against any pitcher that's average or below average, because I don't consider him even an average pitcher. So I just wish I was able to get the Nationals at like a dog price, even like plus 100, but that wasn't happening. So I didn't. I think if this game goes to like the 4th or the 5th inning where the Nationals don't have any runs, I think that you can potentially target their team total over like 1.5 at that point. Or if it is 1.5, it's what it should be. If it's like the 5th inning and they have no runs, they should be about 1.5 from that point forward. I think there's going to be some value in there. I don't like the Marlins pen as it is. And assuming Castano somehow was able to shut this team down for 5 or 6 innings, I do think he would get rattled at some point. I think the number's relatively fair. Call it slight value on the Nats, but certainly don't love it by any means. It's pronounced Tatro. See? Thank you. And of course, Tatro by a dude named Eduard. So I appreciate the irony in somebody's name who I can't even pronounce properly is telling us how to pronounce Tatro properly. Much respect, man. Appreciate you. McClanahan, Cy Young. Yeah, I mean, Nathan, I continue to say this. Like, I was not a McClanahan guy last year. That dude is just a fucking freak. His slider, I used to think Alcantara or Alcantara had the best slider in baseball. Alcantara's actually got a really good changeup. But McClanahan, it's like not even close. I mean, that thing just disappears on batters. And the release point's the same as his fastball. He's just an incredible pitcher. And again, he doesn't have a whole lot of pitches, but he's just super crafty. What's up, Peter? All right, so moving on. Pirates Brewers. So Bryce Wilson who it doesn't come as a surprise that this guy's got an inflated ERA. The Braves, who needed pitchers to begin with, the fact that they dumped him said a lot, right? And he's been terrible this year. And Aaron Ashby, it's not like he's been very good either. Both pitchers give up a ton of leg room or a ton of foot traffic anyway on the base paths. This total's 9 in a park that doesn't usually play this big, but it will be warm, and you do have 2 below average arms. I'm not against betting this game over, but I will say this is a pretty big number for this park. Because again, this park plays big. So I don't love the over by any means here, but I can't bet the under in this spot. And as for the line, I mean, the idea that Ashby's minus 220 against anybody is kind of wild, but I get it, right? Bryce Wilson's been bad. Needless to say, I don't love anything in this spot. Like I said, I think you could get runs, but again, the park is not exactly built for these types of totals, so it becomes an easy pass for me. So first best bet, Phillies Cardinals, Kyle Gibson and Michael, right? Michael. I think it's Matthew, actually. Matthew Liberatore, for you Italian folks out there. Yeah, he's not very good. So I know that his ERA somehow is 4, but he is an absolute gas can. He was actually decent in AAA this year, but in the majors, in his small sample here, he has not been very good. Most of his advanced numbers have him up at 6. In the advanced ERA numbers, he is giving up a tremendous amount of hard contact, especially to right-handed bats. We know the Phillies will bring to town a lot of right-handed bats. And actually, if we actually should have their lineup, right? Yeah, I mean, you look at their lineup. I mean, granted, it's a little beaten up, right? With some of these names towards the bottom, but they still have a lot of pop in the front of it with a lot of big righty bats. But let's be honest, we're talking about lack of pop. Like the Cardinals, the middle to near bottom of their lineup isn't exactly that great either. But here's the thing. I like Kyle Gibson here, money line minus 125. I know this came down a bit from open. I think it opened like 135. For me personally, this game should have been 140. The fact that it's now 125 makes it a playable bet for me. I know Gibson's been bad, right? And I know it's going to be super warm, and you would think maybe this wouldn't be a spot where Gibson can kind of find his form against a tough Cardinals team, or tough Cardinals, at least, 1 through 5 tough lineup, right? But my thing is like Gibson's a much better pitcher at home. Liberatore is just, like I said, I don't I honestly don't know how this dude's ERA is 4. Like the guy gets himself into so much trouble. I know he comes off a spot start last time against Pittsburgh where, he gave up nothing, but again, that's Pittsburgh. Before that start, I mean, at Cubs and Milwaukee and then Pittsburgh before that, like, I get it. He threw pretty well against Milwaukee, but I consider that start relatively fortunate. And it seems like I know he's only had 2 road starts, but this dude doesn't seem to like throwing on the road either. And I'm getting a pitcher in Gibson who's much better at home. A younger kid in Liberatore who hasn't been very good on the road and who's been giving up a tremendous amount of hard contact to right-handed bats. I think you're getting a bunch of perfect storms here. I will say this, Southpaw, like I know this is all great, like full season numbers, but like look at the Phillies lineup. Like this is not their best lineup like right now because they're dealing with injuries. And I get it though, they're hitting, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I like it. I think you're getting a Phillies team that's really smack around the sticks. And I said it yesterday, like if I was going to bet the game yesterday, I would have bet Phillies team total over. Miles Mikolas, like making those types of bets with Mikolas hasn't exactly been profitable. So it makes that, it made the bet like tough to warrant. But yeah, Philly got there with runs, and they got there against Mikolas, and I think they hit up a few extra on the pen to get to 5, which would have been a winner. This team from the right side of the plate, though, especially 1 through 5, 1 through 6 in that order, they mash. And it's going to be super warm today. That's why this total's inflated. But overall, really like Gibson in this spot here at 125. I wouldn't go like if this gets to, it's not gonna, but if this gets back to like 135, I wouldn't bet it. The big number here is 125 to find, or I think FanDuel has 126, which is fine, I guess. But yeah, I like the Phillies here. I know the Phillies pen isn't great, but let's be honest, the Cardinals pen ain't great either. So I'm not in love with anything in that regard. So you could bet first 5, I guess, if you're a little uncomfortable. But the Philly sticks, Philly sticks have been very live again. It seems like they're going through another little mini tear. So, I kind of like what I've seen from them over the last few days. And I think, again, another game in warm weather against a susceptible pitcher. They're likely going to barrel up a lot of balls, and hopefully they find holes. So, yeah, I like Philly today in this spot. I know Gibson's been tough to watch recently, but again, I think that's one of the main reasons why the price is what it is today, right? Because if Gibson was continuing to be dominant, this line's like 150, 155 because he's been struggling. It lowers this line down a bit, which I think is good for all involved. So yeah, I mean, this is typically, I don't go much higher than this when I make bets looking for value, but I really like Philly today. All right, so Astros, Angels. Yes, the Angels, such a sad team. Cue the tiny violin. You know what the crazy part is? Like, this team's only 5 games under 500, and I feel like I lose every time I bet them, which almost seems like hard to believe. And let's be honest too, like, I'm not betting them after like big wins. Like, I typically bet them when they're streaking in a negative way to find value. Granted, I didn't bet them one time during their 14-game losing streak. Isn't that even crazier? Like, I've lost like every game betting the Angels, and like I didn't bet them once during their 14-game losing streak. So I guess it makes it even crazier, right? So you basically you can think about it, right? So if I didn't bet any of those games during their 14-game losing streak, you take the 14 out of 42, right? So what do you 30, 37 and 28? So excluding all those losses. And yet I'm still like 0-8 betting on the Angels, which is kind of crazy. Your Keedy pitches today against Patrick Sandoval. I like Sandoval, but this is a tough ask of him. Again, what I said earlier in the show, like, it just seems like whenever I stop betting the Angels, they win. So take that for what it's worth, because I'm not betting them today. But again, they're just a tough team to like. Like, I think that, Lorenzen pitching yesterday, I was very surprised about how poorly he pitched. I mean, he gave up a lot of hard contact. And he's been really good against right-handed bats, and that was not the case yesterday by any means. And it was like the Astros, like, bottom of their order, was doing most of the damage, which is even crazier. So, overall, it's a team I can't get right, so I'm not going to be betting them here by any means. Total of 8. Don't love it. Don't hate it. Just becomes a stay away spot for me overall. Reds, Braves. Tyler Mahle, or Mahle, as some pronounce it, going up against Spencer Strider, the flamethrower for the Braves. This kid's going to be an absolute stud, if you don't even think he is already, because he kind of is a stud as it is. A 2-pitch guy, really fastball, slider, I think. Very similar arm angles between the two. And again, he throws absolute smoke. He strikes out a ton of guys. His problem is walks. When he's not getting corners from umps, he looks very erratic. The Reds aren't exactly what I would consider a patient team at the plate, though. So he's likely going to get a lot of swings and misses today. As for Mahle, he's obviously one of the better pitchers the Reds have. He's just another guy that has control issues and walks a ton of guys. And when he's on and he's getting corners, he looks like a really good pitcher. But that's just not always the case with him. I think it's a tough ask of him to mow down this Braves lineup today in warm weather, in, as Joey Work calls it, the Great American Small Park. But does Atlanta deserve a 190 tag here? Probably not. I think that Strider's getting a lot of respect in this spot because Mahle's been good, especially recently, overall anyway. But, again, I think you need to have a big pair of nuts if you want to bet the Reds today, because if you're betting the Reds today, you more or less are saying that they're going to get runs off Strider, and they might, because Strider can give up the long ball, and Strider will put guys on base for free. With that said, if you're betting the Reds today, you're to win, you're more or less implying they're going to score runs. So to me, at that point, just bet them over the team total, because the idea that the Braves are going to get completely shut out today would kind of be hard to believe. I know Mahle can look good at times, and there's no doubts there, but I think it's a tough ask for him in this type of warm weather. Now the Reds team totals 3.5. I don't mind that, to bet that over, but again, you're gonna be tilted if you watch this game, because Strider gets himself some foot traffic, when he's actually overall pretty good at avoiding foot traffic, but he will give away free passes. And the few times he does, he is very good at wiggling himself out of jams. Again, a lot of that's because of his high K rate, but I think it'll be tilting for you to watch this if you're betting that over. because opportunities might come and go for the Reds. But yeah, that would be my look for the game. I didn't bet it and I don't love it, but if I was going to make a bet in this game, it would be Reds team total over 3.5. Tigers Royals, Boo, Briesque and Chris Bubich. Wow, has he been rough to watch now? When he came up, I think people had some aspirations for him, but he has not lived up to any bit of it. The Tigers are 130 here. I'd argue the Tigers should not be 130 against any team. I don't really care who's pitching. So there's that. And then it's not like they have a good arm or a great arm going today either. But man, Bubich has been tough to watch, which makes it very difficult to want to back this in any regard. It's a very warm game or warm weather for Comerica, but I can't express this enough for this park. I mean, I know it's warm. This is a massive number for this park at 9. So it makes it a stay away spot for me on the total. But overall, I don't love anything about this game. I don't bet a lot of Royals games. I don't bet a lot of Tigers games. And now they're playing each other. So, I don't have any strong edges here. Moving on, next game, Mariners Athletics is going to be another best bet. So George Kirby and Paul Blackburn. Now Kirby has been really good. However, his last start, he did not look very good. You guys know that doesn't mean anything to me personally. I don't really care what people do in their last start. I'm not a what have you done for me lately. I'm more of a, what is your upside as a pitcher? And Kirby definitely has some really good upside. I think Blackburn is having an okay season. I think that at the surface, like he looks a lot better. He looks a lot better than he's been pitching. Because this dude, for a guy that has a whip of 1.2, the ERA is fine. But he just, like, if you watch him pitch, like he doesn't strike anybody out. He walks a little more than league average. And it's just been tough to watch. Now, granted, Seattle's not really hitting that well. Yesterday's game, like I said, I bet it over, and I'm going back to betting this over again. I don't do this often. So I bet this over 7.5 plus 100 at DK. And the main reason is I just think these two teams are hitting. Like the Athletics, well, let me be more clear. The Athletics are hitting, and the Mariners have all the talent in the world to be hitting. Yesterday, they got themselves into a lot of opportunities to score, did not. The Athletics got themselves into a lot of opportunities to score. I would argue, based on the stat line yesterday of that game, the Athletics should have had 10 runs themselves. I think they, like I said, I think they were as a team, they were like, whatever it was, like 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position, something like that. And they left a ton of guys on base. So did the Mariners. There was just a lot of foot traffic. And now today we get a number smaller, so a full run smaller because you get 2 better arms. But again, I think I think right now you'd be hard pressed to want to bet the Mariners today at 190 because this Athletics team is really roping the ball with the sticks. Granted, it did not result in a lot of runs yesterday, but if they keep hitting like that, they're going to have a run type of implosion game. So I like the fact that they're seeing kind of like a beach ball right now at the plate. And the Mariners with Blackburn, like I said, I'm by no means a Blackburn guy. He's been okay this year. And I know the Mariners have been so blah. But, this is a guy that gets absolutely mauled versus left-handed bats. And let me see if the Seattle lineup's out. I'd assume it is. So the Seattle lineup is out, and they're putting a lot of lefty sticks today. I can't even believe Adam Frazier's batting 7th for this team. Like, he's kind of been really going south. Julio Rodriguez has been a really nice surprise. Not that I didn't think, or people didn't think he was going to be good, because he has upside, but he has been like really good. Winker, I think, is starting to find form a bit. Carlos Santana, the recent ad, I didn't love it personally. As you guys know, I'm a closeted Seattle fan. But I get it. He's obviously got a lot of experience. He hasn't been good at all this year, though. But yeah, they're going to throw a lot of lefties at Blackburn, and that should result in foot traffic for them. And on the A's side, like I said, they've been hitting up and down. Some of these names at the bottom of the lineup, you might go like, who the fuck is that? But again, this as a team, they've been hitting the last 3-4 games, and I expect that to happen today as well. Kirby, again, he's good. You figure this might be a good bounce back spot start for him after his last bad start against the O's. But overall, I really like the spot here. So over, was it Mariners, Seattle, A's over 75 plus 100. Again, maybe not the easiest bet to make, but for me yesterday, I can't express this enough. Like of all the bets I've lost this year, in betting baseball, I would say yesterday, that game in particular was one of the games that I felt that that game did not deserve to. That game did not deserve to lose. Not with how many scoring opportunities there were in that game. So yeah, I think I went right back to the well here, and we'll see. All right, so next game up, Mets Rangers. Trevor Williams, Martin Perez. Martin Perez continues to impress in this league. Tough spot start for him here, obviously. The good news for the Rangers is that Trevor Williams is not exactly very good. Now, I know that his ERA looks fine, but he has not been good at many levels. He is giving up a lot of dudes. He's giving up a lot of free passes and a lot of hard contact. Now, granted, some of that can be disguised by how good the Mets are with their sticks, but it hasn't exactly been in Trevor Williams' favor considering he's 1-4. But I do think this is a decent spot for the Rangers sticks. Maybe you bet their team total over. You could. I'd bet the Rangers money line. I can't back Martin Perez, a guy that has to have regression coming. Again, this guy is doing nothing different than he has in his previous few years. The velo is the same. He's throwing the same type of pitches. At some point, this is going to come back to bite him. Now, he's a very smart pitcher, which I'm sure is helping him in many situations, savvy, if you will. But for me, slight value on the Rangers today, but not enough for me to fire. Blue Jays Rays game 2 doubleheader. Won't talk on that. As you guys know, I don't really fuck around with doubleheaders, and most certainly don't mess around with the game 2 of doubleheaders. Yankees Guardians, same thing. Cubs Red Sox. As you guys know, I do not bet Red Sox games. So Josh Winkowski's been okay for them, right? They brought him up a few weeks ago or a short while ago. Glorified pen guy. But he's been pitching okay. Serviceable, if you will. Now he's had some juicy matchups for him. I mean, think about it. This guy's gotten to face Cleveland, Detroit, Oakland, Baltimore. For not so good offenses. Today, fortunate for him, he will once again see a not so good offense. But for me, does Boston warrant a 145 line here? I mean, Alec Mills. I think that people feel like Alec Mills is actually a decent pitcher. I know that he hasn't showed it this year at all, and he just keeps getting roped. But to me, it's like the Lance Lynn effect. Like, once he gets a few decent starts under him, I think you'll have more confidence if you want to back him. I don't necessarily love this spot by any means. I mean, last year he wasn't good, wasn't like great by any means. But to me, like Mills is serviceable. Like if you guys remember, I want to say it was like 2017 or 2018. I think was where he had like a really good season. I think, if I remember, I mean, I know the sample size wasn't large, but, he hasn't looked like that since, but he's looked serviceable. This year, he has not been serviceable by any means. He's going to face a tough Red Sox lineup today. Makes the game tough to back. Now this total at 9.5 for Wrigley, I don't have the weather in front of me, but I would assume the weather's not super favorable in Wrigley, because you have two average at best arms. And I know it's warm, but I can't imagine the wind's blown out that heavy, because if the wind was blown out heavy, this would be like a 10.5, 11.5 line. So either way, the game's a pass for me. I don't bet Red Sox games because I can't get this team right. And I think you have two young pitchers, two susceptible pitchers, could go over the total, could get a lot of traffic here. Average at best bullpens, but the game is a full stay away from me. Okay, so Dodgers Padres would be my last best bet. Tyler Anderson, Yu Darvish. I'm gonna bet on the Dodgers game again. Kind of go to the well. They've been profitable when I've bet them. I haven't bet them much at all this year, but I do like Darvish in this spot. So I got a plus 130 at DK. I expect Machado back in the lineup today. He was not in the lineup yesterday, but I do expect him back in the lineup today. I did fire there. So Padres money line plus 130. I know the Padres pen is blah. And I know the Padres haven't really been hitting. But for me, it's just a value spot. Like I know I bet Darvish against the Dodgers first 5. I want to say it was like a month and a half ago. And that did win. Darvish, I know Darvish hasn't been great on the road either. But again, I do think that the Padres will put pressure on Tyler Anderson, who we know Tyler Anderson doesn't exactly have a lot of upside. You guys remember, like this dude was a gas can on the Pirates. And kudos to him. He goes to the Dodgers, and he looks like a very serviceable pitcher. But again, I still do have my doubts about him for a few reasons. He does struggle with right-handed bats, and And I think that overall, I mean, if you look at Anderson's career, like he's had like a sub 4.7, 4.8 ERA for most of his career, except for when he's been with the Dodgers. So, is it the confidence thing? Is it the people around him? Is it the tutelage he's getting? Either way, he's pitched a lot better. His whip is much lower than it is from his whole career. I think his strikeouts are up and his walks are down. But again, he still struggles with Rays. This Padres lineup is almost full health. I just get a good value spot for Darvish. Darvish, we know what we get with him, right? Typically a guy that can eat innings. But overall, it's a value spot for me. Really like it. So I fired on Padres at 130. I wouldn't like it. Like if this line dipped to like 120, it's no longer a play for me. For me personally, I think that the accurate line of this should have been like Padres plus 105, plus 110. So I get that, 15, 20 cents in my favor with the 130 number. All right. Last but not least, Rockies, D-backs, Austin Gomer, Dallas Keuchel. Now Keuchel has been so tough to watch. But I think, and Gomer is, much of the same, but Keuchel's in his own world. If you guys remember his Cy Young year years back, he was just a crafty lefty. Like he wasn't somebody striking out a lot of guys. He was just a guy getting a lot of light contact, not letting guys barrel balls up. That has been a polar opposite for him this year and even the year prior, but this year's been very bad. Now I will say this total 12.5 in weather that's not super warm in cores is a little alarming. But I can understand why folks would want to bet, for there to be runs in this game. I just think, it's funny. If you guys remember, I want to say it was like 3-4 years ago when, actually it was probably about 5 years ago when it was really warm in cores. And I think they thought like the balls were inflated. They were hanging like 16.5 numbers at cores. I don't know if you guys remember 16. This was when the Rockies had a really good lineup. So I find it funny now, like 12.5 seems like it's too high. Meanwhile, 4 years ago, 16.5 was getting hung at this park. But, it's not super warm weather here. 75 degrees is not ideal. But again, these pitchers have been so bad. You're going to see a lot of traffic today. Will it result in enough runs? Maybe, maybe not. And then again, 2 below average pens, which doesn't make it easier either. But yeah, easy pass for me overall. Okay, so that recaps this up. We have 3 best bets that I fired on. I fired on Phillies money line minus 125, Seattle, Oakland over 7.5 plus 100, and Padres money line plus 130. Seem to have a good day today, folks. Obviously, as I say, I always want to go 2-1, 66%. 3-0 is a pipe dream, but always love when that happens, of course. We'll just hope to have a decent bounce back, and then obviously tomorrow be back with Joey and Holden. But as always, folks, gamble responsibly, stay safe, run pure, and enjoy the rest of your day, folks. We've